a lot of people don't know this as well. I was offered 4 years of free college and $40,000. So like literally the university was like, please come here. That was one university. So I turned down the scholarship. I turned down all that stuff. And then I graduate high school. And then 2 days later, so May 16th of 2022, I go to college orientation. And the person goes up on stage. They're all excited, as they should be. They're hyping up college. And they're like, everyone pull out your phones and mark on your calendar. We have 60 days until college starts. So I pulled out my phone, I pulled out my notes, and I wrote down I have 60 days to do whatever it takes to not go to college.
Welcome to the Learn Out Loud podcast, where curiosity is the best strategy. Today's guest is Nick Lauer, founder of Short-Form Empire, content killer, and builder since day one. He's helped creators rack up over 1 billion views and 1 million in revenue, but I'll let him tell you how he got here. Nick, welcome to Learn Out Loud.
Madison, thank you so much. It is an honor and privilege to be here, and I know we've collaborated a few times, so it's cool to finally do this interview.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I would love to start out with just you telling people a little bit of your backstory, who you are, what you've accomplished, and kind of why you do what you do.
Yes, so my name's Nick Lauer, founder of Short-Form Empire. I'm 21 years old, and cool thing about me is I'm not just one of those guys that got in the space to get into the space. I've been making content since I was 6 years old. Like, you can go on my dad's BlackBerry and find myself vlogging, my Legos, my rocks that I collected, and just vlogging myself. So this was back in 2010. And what I didn't know is that this was my natural inclination. This was the true thing that gave me fire and passion. And so as I got older, that passion started to fade just because of sports and grades and relationships and opinions of other people. And then my senior year of high school, I was finally like, you know what? I've gone through a lot of stuff. I went through like relationship stuff, health issues as well. So anyways, junior year of high school, 2021 was the lowest point in my life. I was diagnosed with a chronic autoimmune disease. My relationship ended. So like physically, I'm literally dying. Mentally, I'm drained. Emotionally, I'm gone. Spiritually, I'm drained. And financially, I'm broke because I'm a high school student. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go back to what gave me life while I'm dying. So I picked up the camera again. I started making content. My high school started to see it. So then I started to do like content for the sports teams. And next thing I know, it just started to like explode and grow. And then parents started to see it. And then I was able to monetize it. So I'm landing $100 here, $200 here, $1,000 there. And next thing I know, I'm getting offered all this stuff, but I'm like, I don't want this stuff. I don't want to go to college, which I know we'll probably talk about later. And I spent all summer after I graduated high school just like investing in myself, buying courses, like trying to figure out how I can make this happen. And that finally led to me building one of the first mainstream short form video agencies. So
That's awesome. One of my favorite things is to hear how people kind of got into the space, and it's similar for me where I had been making content for like ever. Like when I was a kid, I would make slideshows for my mom instead of writing her a Mother's Day card or just stuff like that. So I love hearing that. So you've been building businesses for a while now. What was your first like real venture, and how did it kind of lead you to where you are today?
yeah, I mean, I don't want to say entrepreneurial my whole life, but I've been creative my whole life, which that eventually evolved into entrepreneurship. But I want to say I was 14 years old when I had like my first legit business. We're not talking I'm selling like cookies and lemonade, like an actual business at 14 years old. It was a clothing brand, and it was Nashville themed because I live in Tennessee. So I thought that was pretty easy. And I made probably $1,000 to $2,000 off of it. But as a 14-year-old that didn't know what the heck he was doing, that was a pretty cool experience. And once again, it wasn't necessarily because I wanted to make money. I wanted to create these really cool designs that I knew from a consumer behavior people would want to actually buy them. And the byproduct of them buying it means I made a lot of money. So yeah, that was my first business, was a clothing brand. And, I had like stickers and all that stuff. But how it impacts me today is like just the persistent pursuit. So like I'm 14 years old. I know nothing about Shopify. I know nothing about graphic design. I know nothing about building a website. And I'm sure I can go back and find so many photos of like the first version of the website, which was like horrific. And then, where I had to spend probably $500 more than I should have on shipping, like crazy stuff like that. But that really taught me just like through the persistent pursuit of your full potential, you're going to eventually get to where you want to go. And I also taught me that failure doesn't exist because if you keep innovating, you keep adapting, you keep pushing yourself, you can't fail. You're going to win at some point.
Yeah, for sure. I love that mindset. I feel like that's really important to have. And just what you said about failure not existing, like that's a really good mindset to have. I love that. So I know you mentioned in your backstory that you kind of didn't want to go to college, and I know the audience doesn't know, but you dropped out of college the day before classes started. So kind of what led to that decision, and how did it influence your entrepreneurial path?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. I have a pretty wild story. So like I was a really good student. Like I was getting A's and B's most of my whole life. And my senior year of high school, when I got back into content, like my brain just started expanding with the opportunities I was getting, the money I was making, the people I was reaching out to. And I finally just saw this bigger world of like, you don't actually need college. I mean, now more than ever, I graduated high school 3 years ago, but now you really don't need it. And I'm jealous of the kids graduating now because if I had those opportunities, it would be insane. So anyways, a lot of people don't know this as well. I was offered 4 years of free college and $40,000. So like literally the university was like, please come here. That was one university. The other university, I was offered a full ride for aerospace engineering, like one of the biggest universities, University of Tennessee. So like I was literally handed the world, but I just knew deep down, like in my gut and in my brain, that this was not for me. So I turned down the scholarship, I turned down all that stuff, and then I graduate high school. And then 2 days later, so May 16th of 2022, I go to college orientation. And the person goes up on stage, they're all excited, you know, as they should be, they're hyping up college. And they're like, everyone pull out your phones and mark on your calendar. We have 60 days until college starts. So I pulled out my phone, I pulled out my notes, and I wrote down I have 60 days to do whatever it takes to not go to college. And so that happened. I still signed up for my classes that day, but I just knew in the back of my head, like, that we just got to play the part for now. My parents, like, so they don't see anything weird going on with me dropping out. And so to your point, a day before the semester started, I go to the college, I find whatever person, and I'm like, hey, listen, like, I've got like these health issues, which my health issues weren't that bad then. Like, I was able to put it at a decent spot. I'm like, I got these health issues, like, I need to like drop all my classes. And what I actually did is I dropped all my classes except one. So my parents weren't notified that I dropped out. And I did online walking. And apparently, yeah, that is a course you can take, is you literally walk and you like document it on the app. And so I kept that class. I never opened it once. And so that fall of 2022, which I was telling you about, I just locked in, working 20 hours a day, just trying to figure it out because like short form content was so new. Like this business model did not exist. So I'm literally in the trenches trying to figure it out. And just before the semester ended, like around Thanksgiving, Christmas time is when I landed, you know, that first client and then a few more after that.
Oh man, that's a crazy story. I love just your kind of like approach with just being in the trenches and having to learn something so new and just knowing deep down that college wasn't for you and actually listening to that, because I feel like the culture around us tells us, like, especially back then, like, oh, you should go to college, you have to go to college. That's kind of our parents' mindset. And so for you to kind of listen to that intuition is a really cool thing. So that's awesome.
To be honest, like I would say we're probably around the same age. Like I don't think our kids will even need school or college. And I know that's a hot take. Like with all this stuff with AI and whatnot, like you have that, but you also have the far more extreme part of like Neuralink and like all these crazy whatever chips in your brain. Like I genuinely don't think, especially the way that I'm wired, I don't think I would have my kids go through the education system that we have now. I really think the education system is about to drastically change.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I kind of love your take on that. I would love to get your take on where you think short form content is headed in the next few years. And then how is short form Empire kind of prepping for those changes that you can foresee?
Yeah, it's a really good question because, like I said, I remember one thing I didn't talk about was before I started buying these courses, I actually did a mentorship with these NFL guys. So I would help their podcast. I was 18 years old, just like hanging out with them every week. And this was literally when YouTube Shorts just came out. Like when I say I was in the trenches, this was just when YouTube Shorts came out. And I asked them like, "Hey, are you doing short form content?" They're like, "No." And so I built a system for them that has now scaled them past 300,000 subscribers on YouTube. They're not a client anymore because I was like, "Yo, I got to dip. I got to figure this out." Um, but anyways, the reason I say that is I've seen the market evolve from a consumer and producer. So I've seen the market evolve, short form content in general, but I've also seen agencies evolve. I remember when it was frowned upon to own a short form agency because it was like the next get rich quick. And I'm like, no, guys, like I'm in the trenches. We're going to keep doing it for years and years. So where I see short form content going is more of a tool. You know, it's actually crazy. I've actually never said this out loud. 2 years ago, I wanted to build a political short form agency because already saw the wave coming where this wide top of funnel content is going to grab people's attention and it's going to steward them and nurture them one way or the other. And this is going to be through podcasts and interviews and you know, people going to colleges. Like I already predicted that wave. So I'm saying that to say I see it being used more and more as a tool. It's a tool to get people to a podcast. It's a tool to get people to vote. It's a tool to literally like create movements, which is absolutely wild. And it's just, I see that evolving. I don't care too much about like, what's the next editing style? What's the next this?
Yeah.
What I think is people are going to keep using the concept of short form content to keep driving attention, to keep driving results, to keep driving money. Like there's a new business model called clipping. It kind of existed with Tate, but it's now an official business model. And that's just people innovating the concept of short form content. And now people are printing hundreds of millions of views and millions of dollars for their business. And then in regards to short form empire, um, we'll talk about it later as well, but I'm just innovating with the market. Now, for me, it's a little more intuitive because I've been in the space so long, but also I have to be a little logical. I have to, you know, kind of peek my head outside of my apartment here and there and go to events and see what other people are doing. But really what we're doing is, you know, we have the rise of AI, but what I'm seeing is these professionals that have a lot of expertise. They have a lot to say. They just don't know how to say it or know how to articulate it or film it or edit. Like we're going to keep hitting on those human pain points as much as possible. And I'm also a firm believer, and this might be controversial in the short form agency space, that short form content in and of itself as an agency won't be lasting very long. As a product getting in, yes, but you're going to have to figure out how to provide so much more value beyond just editing and even just beyond editing and script writing. So
Yeah, that's really interesting. You talk about like the rise of AI. With the rise of AI and content creation, how do you see it like affecting the industry? And are you using like any AI tools in your workflow currently?
yeah, I think AI is genuinely a beautiful thing, especially in content creation. For me, it's not actually part of the visualization. It's more of the efficiency of creating the story, the efficiency of editing, the efficiency of distributing the story. So like there are all these really insane AIs that can like make movies and stuff. Like I'm not too focused or even worried about that type of stuff. I think we can take these concepts and maybe utilize it for our personal brand. Like if you want to make you're a realtor and you want to make like some cyberpunk video where you're in like the year 2100, like sure, let's use that. So I think it's really interesting. I am messing around with some AIs where like, you know, I can literally not be on camera and it's doing the talking head for me. However, you're going to have really good storytelling with that where it can actually get engagement and drive results. So there's that. But really with our company, we're using it more for efficiency. So how can we use AI to create better hooks, to have better storytelling? How can we use AI to drive more leads for our company? I know that's not in the content creation realm, but we're really using it more for efficiency and also the human connection. Like we're trying to get these scripts and these stories as close to our client avatar as possible.
I love that you are using AI for efficiency, but still keeping it humanized because that is what is like going to help you stand out. So that's awesome. What are some of the like AI tools that you're using in like to help with efficiency?
I know what I use in my department. You know, my company is like big enough now that I actually don't know what's going on in some departments, which I'm grateful for that. I'm not in the trenches typing in every caption. But in my department, I use ChatGPT every single day, like even for my personal life. Like I will ask Chat, like, hey, I got this 6 ounce steak and this, like how many calories? Like I use it for literally anything. But for me, I use Chat. I use Claude as well. Claude AI is a really, really good one. I probably live on that more than ChatGPT. Um, I'm messing around with Hedra right now, which is more of like what I talked about, like the cyberpunk stuff. Like you can create literally anything and everything you want. You can create, an animated version of me that's talking about content, but it's literally not even me. Hedra is a good one. And then Submagic, I love Submagic. We go way back. I've done a lot of partnerships with them. They're a really good one if you kind of want, something quick and something easy. Like I even use Submagic on some of my own stuff right now because I don't need this crazy editing because I have really good storytelling and it negates the fact that I need good editing. So Submagic is definitely one of my go-tos.
For sure. Okay, so I would love to know like what you talked about like storytelling a lot. So this is kind of just what do you think is like the most important part of telling a story?
I think there's a few important parts. Like everyone has heard it, but the best part of storytelling, the most important part of storytelling is the hook. Now, we could be talking a short form video, a long form video, or even a speech on stage. Those first 5 seconds, those first 30 seconds, even the first minute and a half has to be so captivating. It has to grab attention. It has to relay emotion. It has to help the viewer visualize what is going on. Because if you've got them there, you can take them along the journey. And then there's obviously parts within the video that you got to keep grabbing them and attaining them. But in regards to storytelling, the hook is really important. I think stories are important. Like I make YouTube videos not as much as I have been because I'm working on a project. But when I was making my educational YouTube videos, I'd have a really strong hook. I'd have like 4 to 5 main points. But with those 4 to 5 main points, I would have stories alongside it, either to keep the viewership so it doesn't fall off, or to help them really visualize like, hey, I was here, or like, hey, here's how you can utilize this formula. So stories within storytelling is important. And then my biggest thing, and it's what I operate in my life, in my spiritual life, my emotional life, anything I'm a part of is authenticity. Authenticity is the highest form of enlightenment. And if you're vibrating on that state, you're thinking in an authentic way, you're treating people in an authentic way, you're talking in an authentic way, you're not some guru BS, all that stuff that I hate. I think you're going to attract so much more attention, so much more opportunities by being genuine and being yourself. Because in a world of AI, in a world of so much content in your face, what people are genuinely craving is that authenticity through human connection.
I love that you said because I feel like the digital landscape is so full of all these gurus and courses and coaches and all of that, and it's trust is at an all-time low. And so authenticity really builds that trust. So that's a really good point.
100%. And like it quite frankly annoys me. Like I don't get too frustrated, but that stuff really does frustrate me. Like in my videos that I've always made, I've tried to be as clear and authentic. And I remember I made a video, and I'll say it, I made a video for Submagic that I got paid for. It literally says on the video that I got paid for it. And people were like, Nick, you're a sellout, you're doing this. I'm like, bro, I literally just made a video showing you how you can make thousands of dollars with Submagic, and I literally did it. I showed them how I did it for one of my business partners, and she made like $4,000 off the video. And I'm like, how am I a sellout for showing you a true tool, whereas these other guys you're consuming are renting the Lamborghini, they're renting the Airbnb in Miami, and they've actually never been in the trenches. It's like it's annoying, but it's whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, had to
That's so
rant.
true. Yeah. Love the rant. So I would love to dive into like kind of what does a typical day look like for you balancing like content creation, client work, and then your personal time?
It depends on the season. I have seasons where it's like go, 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 which I'll tell you what that looks like in a second. Or I have seasons that are a little more relaxed. So my go, go, go seasons, I try to plan my day the night before. So I'll physically write down everything I need to do. Then I will put it in my Notion to-do list so I can like move it if I've done it or finished it. And then I'll put it in my calendar. So I know the night before that everything I need to do tomorrow, and then I'll go to my calendar and just like live by my calendar and just knock it off. So that those are like my really intense. Like I've got a lot going on. I'm building these projects. If it doesn't look like that, then usually it's pretty relaxed. Like I'm not really setting an alarm. I'm waking up at like 8, 9, maybe 10 if I stayed up too late. Like I don't have some crazy routine. I'll check in with my team, but like really where my company is now, there's so many people in place now that I don't have to talk to the editors. I don't have to talk to our executive assistant. I don't have to be on the shoots that are all across America. So I'm kind of in this point right now where I'm taking it a little easy, but also working on more projects and more products that we can launch to the market. And then in regards to personal, like that has its seasons too, but I'm now at a point where I value that as much as I can. So when I first started my agency at 18 years old, like once again, I was in the trenches working 20 hours a day. I never had an energy drink or coffee in my life. And next thing I know, I'm cracking 3 of them a day and like jittering like crazy. But I'm like, I got to figure it out. I got to make it happen. I got to make money. So like back then my routine was complete garbage. But it was worth it. It had a season for it. And even my personal routine then was awful. But now I have an insane health routine. So like gym is very important. I try to go 4 to 5 times a week. I walk every single day. That actually helps like calm my entire body and mind because my mind always races, whether good or bad. And then I eat super healthy. I keep the same diet, steak and eggs every day, vegetables, stuff like that. And then the number one thing that has helped me the most is get in nature. So like I live in Tennessee, I live in Nashville. I could drive 10 minutes right over there and be at a super nice park. Or I could drive an hour and be at a waterfall or a cave. And I try to take every weekend or even some points during the day and just connect with nature and, get away from all the craziness, connect with God, and just take time to reflect. And really in those moments, I've actually came up with most of my ideas. One more thing, I know I'm like dragging on this question, but when I was at my lowest, when I was diagnosed with Crohn's, when I was going through all this stuff, my only outlet that I had was nature and content creation, ironically. And so when I was at my lowest and I was dying and I wanted to be great and I wanted to build something and I never wanted to feel this much pain ever again, I would go out in nature or I would mow on my grandma's farm and I would just journal and I would unearth my subconscious. And what's crazy is from those journalings is like stuff on my vision board that I've accomplished or the agencies that I've built. And I don't know, nature has a special part in my heart because it helped me slow down and reflect on my life and truly figure out like what do I genuinely want? What is the impact I want to create?
Yeah, man, I needed to hear that. I feel like I need to slow down and get outside and get in nature. It's so easy to get caught up in the business and working and hustling and all of
Yeah.
that. But I love that you said like some of your most creative moments have been when you slowed down. So
Yeah, either
that's
nature
awesome.
or even traveling to different countries. Actually, I would say like traveling to different countries has expanded my mind beyond all measure. Especially like we live in America, so we're like we got it made. Like we're mostly entitled, at least most Americans I know. And most Americans don't even have a passport. I'm not hating on that. It's just like most Americans don't even leave their city ever. They don't even fly over to Florida or fly over to California. And so like traveling to different countries as well is where I've found like even bigger and better ideas, and I've made huge connections. Like just I went to Dubai for 10 days, and I should have stayed 2 more days because I had like 8 meetings lined up, but I had to go back home, and like that wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have met those people. I wouldn't have had these ideas if I didn't continually move around and push myself.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you talk about like nature being a huge influence in your journey and traveling and all of that. I'm curious about people. Like who's been your biggest like mentor or influence in your journey?
Yeah, I have a few. I've always looked up to Elon Musk, like since I was in like sixth grade. I have a funny story actually. Like I remember I knew who Elon Musk was when his net worth was like not even $20 billion. And I thought that was like the coolest thing. And it was because no one really knew who he was. And I was obsessed with Tesla. I was obsessed with SpaceX because I wanted to be an aerospace engineer. But I obsessed over Elon Musk just because of like his creative brain. It's like, yeah, if I want to go build the biggest EV company or a rocket ship company or, whatever, like he's just going to go do it. And I just found that was really cool. Like I grew up in a small private school my whole life. So like you go through the motions, you follow the rules, you do this, you do that. And it's kind of made to push you into that world, and you go to the private colleges and you fall back into the system. But there was always something inside of me that was like, but I want more. Like I want to build empires. I want to create genuine impact and obviously make money. And Elon was like kind of my outlet. Like when we were like, oh, let's do autobiographies or book reports. Like I was reading Elon Musk. I was reporting on it. I remember we had iPads in class as our books, and I would watch the news and like refresh it and see if there was a new thing about Tesla or a new article. And like this was before the Model 3 even exists. Like we're talking OG days. So Elon has been really huge for me. Another mentor, ironically, he has the same first and last name as me, Nick Lauer. He lived and worked with Jake Paul. He started off just doing like editing and then vlogging, and then he built himself up in the Team 10 company around COVID, like before then. But I met him because I just sent a DM because I'm like, bro, like we got the same name, like whatever. And I was in my senior year of high school, and he literally was just like, dude, I see you want it and I want to help you. And through my journey of like building content, businesses, and all that stuff, like he really, really mentored me. And he is the one that helped me see a bigger world. Because I remember I was interviewing him, and I asked him, I was like, when you were at Jake Paul's house, like, what was the moment that it all connected? And then he started talking. And it was like something out of a movie. When he was talking, like that's when it connected for me. I was like, oh my gosh, I can literally do and create whatever I want, and I can put myself out there, and I can work hard, and I can make it happen. So I'd say Elon and Nick Lauer Sr. is what we call him, have been very influential. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. Speaking of like influence and just some things that inspire you, I'd love to hop into some rapid fire questions.
Let's do it.
Okay, so I would love to know like what's the most inspiring book or podcast that you've listened to?
Man, anything by Robert Greene, I love. So like 48 Laws of Power was good. The Art of Mastery was a really good one. I've started venturing more into like health stuff as well. So Dr. Gabor, he's big on trauma. And I could talk so much about that and like how trauma therapies have literally changed my life to a point that I have no issues with my autoimmune disease. It's a whole nother conversation. But Dr. Gabor, another book I'm reading right now from Dan Martell is Buy Back Your Time. I wish I would have read this when I was 18 because I wouldn't have been editing 150 videos a month myself on my iPhone. I would have learned to delegate and get some editors before that. Dan Martell, and I don't really listen to like a lot of podcasts right now. Literally the only podcast I listen to is Theo Vaughn, ironically. But usually it's when he has someone notable like Dr. Gabor or like even Mark Zuckerberg or something. And the reason I love his podcast is because Theo Vaughn is just a character. He's so freaking funny. But I feel like a lot of podcasts are like so serious and so sophisticated, and like you feel like you can't connect with them. Whereas Theo is our intrusive thoughts. Like he says everything we want to say without getting canceled, and it's just like a better way to connect with him. So those are a few books and entrepreneurs and podcasts that I do consume right now.
Yeah, I love that. Well, speaking of like taking it a lighter on the podcast, what's like a fun fact about you that most people don't know?
Oh man, I saw this question earlier and I was really trying to think about it. fun fact that people wouldn't know. I feel like I have so many. Like I have so many stories. Here's one. I've only had one job, real job in my life. So I had a job where I was working on my grandma's farm. I don't really count that. I've had one real job in my life, and it was bagging groceries at Publix, which is on the southeast side of America. It's like Kroger.
Yeah.
So I bagged groceries. That was my only job, and I hated every second of it. Second of it. This was like kind of after COVID happened, so it was like all these weird rules and routines and stuff. And this was when I was really sick with my chronic disease. And I remember like my job they gave me was either like cleaning the toilets and stuff, which was horrific. It was bagging groceries, or it was standing in the front wiping carts for like 4 hours with no breaks. You couldn't pull out your phone. You had to like smile, like all this stuff. And I remember like how miserable that was, but also it was one of those pivotal moments in my life where I just sat there and I thought of the life I wanted to desire. But the reason I said that is that was my first and only job. I told myself I would never have a 9 to 5 ever again. And I remember I like to play chess sometimes, not in real, like not the game, like in real life. I like to play chess. I, kind of like asked around, like, how do you get your 2 weeks notice? Like, what is this thing? Not that I want it, but like, I've heard about it. And so I was able to find the paper and I got it. And then I was like really, really sick then, but I kind of used that as a crutch to get out of it. And so I gave like my 2 weeks notice and I just never showed up again, even though I had like 10 shifts after that. Cause I was like, this is so bad. I'm never going back and I'm literally going to figure it out. And then that's when I went into my senior year of high school and picked up the camera. So.
Nice. Okay, well, I know time is coming up. So before we wrap up, for anyone who is listening and wants to plug into like what you're building, maybe with Short Form Empire or just follow along with what you're up to, where's the best place for them to connect with you?
The first best place is Instagram. That's just where I'm most active. Like you want to see what I eat, you want to see what I drive, you want to see where I hang out. Like that's the most human way to connect with me. Second is YouTube. Now I haven't posted a lot on there in the past year. I'm planning on doing a lot. Like I just spoke at an event and like filmed the whole vlog. So if you want to like really see behind the scenes of my life beyond just like the educational content I've been doing, then YouTube is a really good spot.
Perfect. And then is there anything exciting coming up that you want to share with people?
I don't know. I'm kind of an open book to life right now. I think that's the most exciting thing I could share is like, I'm open to being anywhere or doing anything else that comes up, which is kind of scary with me in a good way because like if I'm like, yo, I want to, hop over to Dubai for 3 months or something, like I will. So I don't have anything specific, at least not that I can talk about publicly. But just know I am in a season right now where I'm so open for opportunities and growth and, a lot of cool things come out of that. So
For sure. For sure. And then if someone takes one thing away from this conversation today, what do you hope that it is?
If you want to build something of yourself, let me slow down. I was at the lowest point in my life, genuinely. I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. My relationship crumbled. Financially, I'm broke. Like, I went through just the darkest season of my life. And one thing that I think the world ignores right now is that people are like actually hurting. But the problem is that they're suppressing it. So there's in science, it's called the law of conservation of energy, and it says that energy can only be converted. It can't be created or destroyed, only converted. And what a lot of people miss, especially in my generation and in my age, is that if you go through things in life that suck, which we all do, that's the reason I'm saying it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. No guru, whatever. Like, life is great. I got this Rolex and Lambo. It's like, no, life can suck. But what people don't understand is like life sucking can be the best thing that ever happened to you because opportunities don't show up until you do. So like you're going through hard times, what you do with it, literally how you view it is going to determine your future. If I was sick and dying and I said, well, this is all happening to me because I deserved it and this is just how my life is going to be the rest of my life, I'd probably be in college right now. I'd be miserable. I'd be floating through it. I wouldn't be around millionaires and billionaires and athletes and entrepreneurs. I wouldn't be blessed to be on this podcast right now. So I was kind of going on a rant there, but all that to say that I want people to truly know, if you're going through something, that you have the power to see that situation in a better lens. And then you also have the power to convert that energy into better things, like the gym, like going to events, like not partying, like go do things that are actually going to grow yourself, and then take as many risks as possible. To this day, I take as many risks as possible. At first, taking a risk was raising my hand in class. It was asking that girl for her phone number and probably getting rejected. It was, working harder on a project. And then now risk today could be worth tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars with the decisions I make. But the more risk you take, the more money you take. I'm actually giving 3 things. The last thing here is ask for help. The most successful people I know, the common denominator of them and their success is asking for help, because you don't know what you don't know. It is one of the most selfless things you can do. You're taking down your ego because you want to figure out something, you want to obtain something. And like today, I ask as much help as I can, because there's so much I want to achieve in life and I don't know what I don't know. And I do know from asking for help, it just creates a whole new timeline in your life that you wouldn't have had. This person has an answer, or they introduce you to this person or this person. And I'll give you an example to end it. Recently, it's been heavy on my heart of hey, I want to speak in person more. I want to speak on my life and my journey as an entrepreneur, but I also want to speak about content and personal branding. And I'm like, I don't know where the heck to start. So I asked one of my buddies here in Nashville that's connected with everyone. I was like, hey, is there an opportunity for me to speak anywhere? And I had an opportunity. And so I spoke at it. It was 20 people in the room. It wasn't big, but I spoke at it and I stewarded the opportunity that was given to me. And then one of the guys came up to me and he's like, hey, I'm the president of this organization. And next thing I know, on last Monday, a few days ago, I was speaking in front of 200 kids at the University of Memphis, telling them about opportunity. And I'm not saying that to lift myself up. I'm saying that just because I literally asked, I'm now being able to do this, do this, do this. So 3 things is 1, realize that life is happening for you. And no matter what hits you, you have the power and energy inside of you to change the trajectory of your life. And once you start to change it, start taking as many risks as possible and ask for help. Even when you got $10 million in the bank, ask for help, because there's answers out there that you don't have. So
yeah, I love that. That's all so helpful. And that's the reason I started Learn Out Loud in the first place, is because I want to learn. And so I want to ask questions and I want to get access to people that I wouldn't normally get access to and learn from them. I admire you so much, and I'm so thankful you came on this podcast, because I've got to learn so much from you. So seriously, this was so good. Thank you for sharing the real stuff. And then to everyone who's listening, I hope that this gave you a new way to think about content, business, or just betting on yourself. If it did, hit subscribe, share it with someone building, and I'll see you on the next episode of Learn Out Loud. Nick, thank you again so much for joining.
it is an honor and privilege, and even outside of this, it's been an honor collaborating on a few projects as well. So thank you.
For sure.